Before humans had language, they still had plenty to say. They had to warn each other about predators, organize hunts, protect children, settle conflicts, find partners, and somehow teach the next generation how to survive. But how do you say, don't eat that plant, when words don't exist yet? How do you explain that a lion is hiding nearby? And how do you build trust with someone when you can't simply tell them, hey, I'm on your side? The answer is more fascinating than you might expect, because language didn't suddenly replace silence. Long before humans could speak, our ancestors were already using an entire network of expressions, movements, sounds, rhythms, and even smells to reach into another mind. And the strange part? We're still using that ancient system today. Start with your face. Without saying a word, you can tell someone you're irritated, confused, nervous, impressed, or completely done with the conversation. Maybe one eyebrow moves, your eyes narrow, your lips tighten for half a second. You might not even realize you're doing it, but the person watching you probably understands the message. That's not a modern invention. It's ancient biological equipment. The human face contains dozens of muscles capable of producing an incredible range of expressions. Some of those expressions appear across very different cultures. Fear, anger, happiness, sadness, surprise, and disgust can often be recognized without translation, because nobody needs to teach you what a terrified face means. You see it, and your body reacts. For early humans, that speed mattered. Imagine spotting a predator near your group. Screaming might warn everyone, but it could also reveal your location. A frightened look, a sudden change in posture, or a frozen body could quietly spread the warning. One person notices the danger, another notices their face, and within seconds, the entire group becomes alert. No sentence required. But facial expressions only work when someone is looking at you. So our ancestors needed something more deliberate. They needed gestures. Watch chimpanzees, and you'll see behavior that feels surprisingly familiar. They reach toward others when asking for something. They touch another chimp to begin grooming. They make movements that invite play or encourage someone to follow. More importantly, they pay attention to whether the other chimp is watching. They may wait for eye contact, repeat a gesture if it doesn't work, and stop once the message has been understood. That's not just random movement. That's communication with a goal. Human babies follow a similar path. Months before they can form proper sentences, babies point. They reach for objects. They wave. They hold something up because they want you to look at it. And pointing is especially interesting. A baby doesn't always point because it wants something. Sometimes it points simply because it wants to share attention. It's basically saying, look at that. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? That tiny gesture connects two minds to the same object. Some researchers believe language may have grown from systems like this. Perhaps our ancestors communicated with their hands before their voices became precise enough for speech. Even the brain gives us an interesting clue. Regions involved in language are closely connected with systems responsible for planning complex movements of the hands, face, and mouth. Maybe speech didn't create the road to communication. Maybe gestures built the road, and speech learned how to travel on it. But hands have an obvious limitation. They're useless when nobody can see them. At night, inside thick vegetation, or across a large distance, our ancestors needed another channel. So they made sounds, not words, not grammar, calls. A short sound could signal fear. A softer one might provide reassurance. Pitch, volume, rhythm, and repetition could completely change the meaning. We can see simpler versions of this in other primates. Some monkeys produce different alarm calls depending on the kind of predator nearby. One sound can make the group look upward for an eagle. Another can make them search the ground for a snake. A different warning can send them climbing away from a big cat. The call doesn't merely communicate, I'm scared, it can also communicate, a specific kind of danger is here. That's not full language, but it's already carrying information about the outside world. Our ancestors probably had their own version of this system, and as their social lives became more complicated, their sounds likely became more flexible. Hunting together requires coordination. Raising children requires cooperation. Living in a group means remembering friendships, rivalries, promises, and threats. A handful of basic calls wouldn't be enough forever. We can't listen to early humans because voices don't fossilize, but ancient bones offer a few clues. Neanderthals, for example, possessed throat anatomy that appears capable of supporting complex vocal sounds, and their behavior suggests rich social lives. They cared for injured group members, they used pigments, they created ornaments, and there's evidence associated with deliberate treatment of the dead. Creatures doing things like that probably weren't living inside an empty social world. They had relationships, traditions, shared experiences, and they needed ways to express them. Still, communication wasn't only about sending warnings or identifying objects. Sometimes the real message was simply, we belong together. That's where rhythm may have become incredibly important. Humans everywhere make music. We clap, chant, dance, march, sing, tap our feet without thinking about it. When people move or sing in rhythm together, they often feel more connected. Individual bodies begin behaving like parts of one larger system. Think about a packed concert. Thousands of strangers sing the same words at the same time, and for a moment, they don't feel like strangers anymore. Or think about soldiers marching in step, religious groups chanting together, fans repeating the same cheer inside a stadium. Shared rhythm creates unity. For early humans, this may have worked like social bonding at a distance. Other primates often strengthen relationships through physical grooming, but grooming is usually personal and slow. You can groom one companion. You can sing with an entire group. No instruments were necessary. Hands could clap, feet could strike the ground, sticks could hit hollow wood, stones could be knocked together. Before there were songs with lyrics, there may have been beats that told everyone, you're one of us. Then there was the body itself. Posture can announce confidence, fear, aggression, or submission before a person speaks. Someone trying to appear threatening makes their body larger. Someone avoiding conflict may lower their head, turn away, or take up less space. Distance also carries information. Who sits beside the leader? Who's allowed to enter another person's space? Who stands together during an argument? These patterns can reveal friendship, status, trust, and rivalry. Touch adds another layer. A gentle hand on the shoulder doesn't communicate the same thing as a forceful grip. A quick tap feels different from a long embrace. Our ancestors didn't need a dictionary to understand that difference. And then there was a channel we rarely think about: smell. Humans don't have a dog's nose, but smell still affects us in subtle ways. Body chemistry can carry information connected to stress, fear, health, and attraction. You may not consciously think, this person smells anxious, but your brain can still react to chemical information without clearly telling you why. For early humans living close together, without soap, deodorant, perfume, or private bedrooms, these signals would have been constantly present. Smell couldn't describe where a predator was hiding, but it could reveal that something was wrong before anyone made a sound. So when did all of this become language? Nobody knows exactly. Language leaves no skeleton behind. There's no fossilized first sentence waiting underground. What we have instead are indirect clues. Stone tools are one of them. Making a sophisticated tool requires more than hitting two rocks together. The maker must imagine a final shape, remember a sequence, and perform actions in the correct order. That sounds surprisingly similar to constructing a sentence. A sentence is also a sequence. Every word affects what can come next. You hold an idea in your mind while arranging smaller pieces into a meaningful structure. For millions of years, our ancestors were developing planning, memory, imitation, vocal control, and social awareness. Language may not have appeared as one enormous miracle. It may have been the final connection between systems that were already waiting. And teaching probably pushed that development even further. Before verbal instructions, people learned by watching. A child observed how an experienced hunter followed tracks, how a toolmaker held a stone, how food was prepared, which plants healed and which ones killed. Then the child copied those actions. Humans are unusually committed imitators. We don't only copy the result, we often copy the exact process, including steps that may appear unnecessary. That instinct allows knowledge to survive. One generation discovers a better method, the next generation copies it, another improves it, and slowly culture accumulates. Language supercharged this process. Now you could explain something that wasn't physically present. You could describe yesterday's danger or tomorrow's plan. You could tell someone not only how to perform a task, but why it worked. Knowledge no longer had to remain trapped inside a single person's hands. It could move between minds. So communication before speech wasn't crude or empty. It was layered. Faces broadcast emotion. Hands carried intention. Calls traveled through darkness. Rhythm connected groups. Posture revealed status. Touch built trust. Smell carried hidden information. And imitation moved knowledge across generations. Language didn't erase any of those systems. It joined them. That's why someone can say, "I'm fine," and you immediately know they're not. The words deliver one message. The voice, face, timing, and posture deliver another. And your brain usually trusts the older system. Every conversation you have is happening on multiple channels at once. Words may be the most precise channel, but they're never operating alone. When a room suddenly feels tense before anyone speaks, that's the old system. When one look from a friend tells you everything, that's the old system. When you sense that someone's words can't be trusted, even though you can't explain why, that's the old system noticing a mismatch. We didn't trade gestures for language. We added language to something much older. So the next time you shrug, raise an eyebrow, step away, lean closer, or deliberately remain silent, you're not failing to communicate. You're using a system refined across millions of years, a language that existed before words. It has no official vocabulary, no written grammar. It doesn't even have a name. And yet, somehow, the message still gets through.